Number.
I already put it on here.
Okay, let me start here.
So good morning, everyone. Today I'm going to talk to you about healthcare reform. First, I want to tell you a story about my friend Joe. Joe went to the doctors for a routine checkup where, he was expecting a clean bill of health. It turned out that Joe has cancer. The treatment for his cancer is so expensive that he had to fight with the insurance company about 5 times, lodging complaints, before they agreed to pay for his health care. Now, Joe is just a fictional person, and I saw a few eyes roll and a few heavy sighs. I know you're all thinking, oh, healthcare reform, we have to hear more about this. What's going on? I'm going to offer you a different solution today. What I'm first going to do is diagnose the problem for you guys with our healthcare system. Next, I'm going to identify the symptoms that led me to my diagnosis. And lastly, I'm going to prescribe for you a different form of treatment for our healthcare system that is currently being offered. So first, let's get to our diagnosis. One of the biggest problems with healthcare now are the rising costs. The rising cost is one given by the rising cost of education. For a doctor to go to medical school, it's approximately $200,000. That's just for medical school alone. The second thing that's adding to the rising cost of healthcare is all of the advancements that we've had in medicine. We've taken time to research and develop new treatments, new types of machines that doctors use for diagnosis, and all of this costs money. And lastly, there's a lack of competition in the United States among healthcare providers. So now I'm going to talk to you about the symptoms that I've recognized that led me to my diagnosis. Dr. Alan Kirch, MD, President and CEO of the Association of American Medical Colleges, said that it takes nearly $200,000 for a doctor to be put through med school. That's how much that they have in loans by the time they're finished with med school. And according to the collegeboard.com in a 2009 study, undergraduates are graduating with between $20,000 and $60,000 in loans. So we're going to say that a doctor spent $30,000 in loans on his college education, and then we're going to say that it was around about $200,000 for his medical school education. We also have to consider in this the interest on the loans that he has. So we'll say that this doctor, he or she has a 5% interest rate because he consolidated all of his loans. That means that in the first year of a loan, for his loan, he's accrued $11,000 in interest. You're saying, well, how does this affect the healthcare costs? Well, when a doctor pays $241,000 in his first year loan is for his loan, the payments that he's making have to come out of the money that he's making from his practice. And to cover $241,000 in loans, they have to raise the prices of the services that they provide. That's according to economic theory that was shown to me by Alan Jorgensen, PhD economics professor in a spring 2009 lecture, which basically says when the prices of education go up, the price for the services rendered goes up, which then in turn makes the premium that you pay your insurance company go up because they have more that they have to cover. You guys are saying, oh, well, you've also said something about advancements in healthcare. What are you talking about? Well, what I have for you is this little chart. And it shows the process of if you were in the hospital and they couldn't find out what was wrong with you and they had to run some blood work on you, this flow chart shows exactly whose hands everything has to pass through. So first you have the nurse. She comes in, the doctor's already said, we need to take this amount of blood for us to be able to diagnose the problem. Okay? She takes the blood and then she delivers it to the laboratory, where a medical technologist who has spent about $40,000 in loans to go to school is going to run the tests on your blood. Then those tests are finished, it goes to the lab director. The lab director has a PhD in one of 5 subjects. Microbiology, immunology, hematology, chemistry, and immunohematology, which is, I said immunology and hematology, but this puts the two together. To get a PhD, it's approximately the same amount as becoming an MD, which is about $230,000 in loans. So that person is also paying off loans. After he signs off on it that the results are correct, it goes back to the nurse. The nurse looks over the results, she triple checks. She then takes it to the doctor, who sees the results and quadruple checks and then prescribes a form of treatment. The doctor then writes a prescription and gives it to the nurse. The nurse then takes that prescription to the pharmacy, where that pharmacist spent $230,000 to go to school. That pharmacist then gives you your prescription, which was manufactured by a drug company, which the hospital paid for, goes to the nurse, and finally gets administered to you. What we don't realize is all of these people have gone to school. Our nurse spent $40,000 to become a nurse. Medical technologist, $40,000. Lab director, $230,000. The nurse again, she's also paying her loans of $40,000. The doctor, $230,000. The nurse again, still paying off $40,000. Our pharmacist with $230,000, and the nurse again with $40,000. We have yet to consider the clerical staff. The clerical staff are the people who check you in. They also do your discharges, process payments, that sort of stuff. All of this information on what goes on in a hospital was provided by Vladka Dimitrovich, medical technologist, accredited by the American Association of Clinical Pathologists. The last thing is competition. And competition among the states is really at a low point. For example, in California alone, Vladimir and Jennifer Dobretrovich, owners of APD Aviation, who employ about 20 employees, have a choice of only 6 healthcare providers in the state of California. In California, with only 6 providers, they get into what's called a price war, and whoever sets the price, say your premium for a $15,000 policy, which really isn't much, is $300 a month. Because that company has set it to $300, all of the other companies, instead of lowering their prices to give you a lower price and try and stomp out the competition, will all set it at $300. Next, you take the state of New York, which I have a personal interview with David Banya, a business owner in the state of New York, who only has one choice of an insurance company. That one company can charge whatever it wants because there's no one there to charge you a lower rate. So you're basically paying whatever they feel like they're going to charge you for that day. So if they want to charge you $500 for your policy, you're going to pay $500. Where the next person may come along and they'll say, oh, you know what, looking at your paperwork, we're going to charge you $600. It all is whatever they want to charge you because they have no competition, you have no choices. What I have here is a graph of the cost of healthcare, the cost of medical school, and the advancements in technology. And you can see that the cost of healthcare has been steadily rising, and then next the cost of medical school has also been rising, and the advancements in technology have also been rising. So what is the solution that I'm proposing to you? What is our next form of treatment? Well, the Congressional Budget Office has said that the current legislation is going to cost $1.2 trillion. Do you guys know what $1.2 trillion looks like? This is what it looks like. Can you imagine getting that on a check? That's what we're going to owe with the current piece of legislation that's being considered. So what I am advocating for is education reforms that will make it easier for doctors to go through med school. And most of you are saying, oh, well, you know, why should we give them this free money, federal grants to go to school? Let me tell you, the average person going into medical school, having just applied, has a GPA of 3.7, scored 30 on their MCATs, and has a variety of community service and internships. Basically, they have no life. So what I've done for you today is I've given you the problems with our system. We've identified the symptoms that led us to our diagnosis, and we've also offered another solution. Now what I've done since I have this solution is I've taken the liberty to write a letter to Mary Bono Mack. It states that you, the undersigner, are in full support of my idea of having Congress of the United States pass education reform rather than healthcare reform, and we realize that it's the ever-rising cost of education that's having an impact on our healthcare system. You're all wondering why I'm dressed like a big highlighter today. I actually work at Traditions Aviation. One of our clients is letting Mary Bono Mack fly out on their plane today, and my boss has been kind enough to arrange a meeting for me with Mary Bono So after this class, I'm going to go and propose to her what I've talked to you about. So if you guys want to sign this, I'll pass it around and this will be presented to her at the meeting. Thank you.